I got the walk, there's a longboard walk. I know the talk, the longboard talk.
Welcome along. It's exciting to be back again for episode 3 of 2021. My name is Weeksy. Thanks for joining us here on Oz Longboarding, where we talk about all things related to longboarding in Australia. We've got a very special guest for you tonight. Excited to announce that we've got the Panda on board, Mr. Andrew Carruthers. We'll speak to him shortly, but firstly, let's do a lap. Well, we don't have to do much of a lap today because our Victorian correspondent is there on the Gold Coast with the man himself, Mr. Sean McEwen. So g'day to Sean and Nath.
Hey,
G'day, guys.
Yeah, Sean's taking me in. Not homeless anymore. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, well, what happened, I stepped out the front door today and it was just all this water rushing down the street. And there's this young grommy out there on a board trying to catch waves. Hey, I grabbed him by the hair and dragged him in, and lo and behold, it happened to be Nate. It was me.
How long are you up there for, mate? You've been getting some waves?
Yeah, I'm up here till Friday. So I got up here on yesterday morning. So yeah, here till Friday. I've just been surfing snapper the last 2 days, yesterday and today a few times. It's pretty onshore and northeast, so it's pretty shit house compared to what the Queenslanders and all that usually have. But we've been having fun surfing some pretty fun onshore banks out at snapper, and it's been pretty reasonably long rides. So no, it's been really good. Nice to be in some warm water as well. Like, I was just absolutely shocked. You know, it's so good not having to wear a wetsuit coming from Victoria. You don't really get out of a wetty often. So yeah, it's been great.
Awesome, mate. Good to see you getting a bit of a tan for a change. But Shawnee's obviously played with the light a bit there. You're zapping in and out like Yoda there for a second, mate. But Sean, you've been up at Agnes Water. How was your time up there?
Mate, yeah, it was good. Yeah, actually, seeing as how most of Australia is being drenched, Agnes was fairly dry. We had a bit of sunshine and that most days. The last day wasn't quite as nice as it had been, but we managed to get waist-high plus waves on the point for the finals. Saw some red-hot surfing. One of our former guests, Mr. Gleave, Ray Gleave, I reckon on his 10-foot sup, he surfed the best wave I've ever seen ridden in a contest. Mate, if he just needed one more manoeuvre, I'd have given him a perfect 10.
Is that what best wave you've ever seen on a 10-foot sup, or best wave?
Best wave I've seen surfed in a comp. I mean, he just top to bottom, around, walking it, just the whole time, just moving, just looked so easy on the eye, just did everything he could. The only thing he didn't get was a 10. He got half a dozen 5s, and yeah, it just so smooth.
Well, if it's the best wave you've ever seen in a comp, you didn't give him a 10, then you're a Scrooge. But someone else who was up there at the comp, and last week as we spoke, she was preparing for a semi-final. Let's find out how she went. Welcome to the show, Kira Molnar. Made it just in time.
Yeah, just in time. Yeah, good. It was really fun conditions up there. We had some really good waves. I did actually beat Lucy, which was fun.
Broken the curse of taking your competitor with you.
Yeah, very true.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, it was a good heat though. It was actually one of the funnest heats I've ever surfed. It was really close too. It was like changing all the time. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and so then through to the final.
And then Mason won the final, so I got to surf with her, which was really fun too, and another really close heat, but she just got the right waves all the way to the beach, which was good. Those ones that ran right through. I'm sure the locals would know.
Unreal. And Agnes, such a beautiful part of the world as well. I was a bit spewing that I didn't get to get up there this year because of the COVID uncertainty, but great that you had a good time, and great that, well, for Lucy's sake, not so much, I guess, but congratulations on getting through that tricky heat. But his face just flashed up on the screen, and everyone's favourite official chaplain of the World Longboard Tour. He's a fantastic photographer and an all-round great guy. Let's welcome along to Oz Longboarding, episode 3, 2021, the Panda, Andrew Carruthers. How are we, good sir?
I'm good, thanks, guys. It's great to be along. And how come I'm not showing up? Am I?
Yeah, you are.
We can see you.
Yeah, good, mate. And great to have you on board.
Weeksy's big smiling mug, which is always something I've enjoyed seeing at so many contests. It's been 18 years of chaplaincy at Oz titles and then on to WSL events and other independent events. I was, 2 years ago, Kira, we were in the Philippines.
I can't believe that was 2 years ago. I kind of just wrote off 2020. I forgot that there was a year in between there.
2020 is a bit like Fight Club. No one talks about 2020, all right? We can't mention it at all. It's a non-event. But, it's been traipsing around the world. I think Dame Pioli had the best description that I've ever heard of what the longboard tour is. Because I used to do shortboard contest event kind of chaplaincy and helping out for a while as well. But I think the longboard tour, Dame Pioli and I were sitting at Sandy Bay in New Zealand, and Dane said, this is a group of travelling surf pikeys. And I think that's apt, just this group of gypsies who travel around contests and a bit like a family, a tribe, So part of the traditional culture of surfing in Hawaii, and most Polynesian cultures have the same thing. They have a kahu, a priest, as part of their events. Surfing is seen as a spiritual endeavour. And so the kahu will bless the surfers before they go and do battle with the ocean. And so in many ways, I see my role in the tribe as priest, friend, confidant, assistant, all of those things. So it's great to be along tonight and talk about some of the tour stuff, some of the adventures, some of the photos, and to catch up with all you guys.
For sure. How'd you get into chaplaincy in the first place, mate?
I'd been a competitor for a while, and I was the director of Christian Surfers, Queensland, then Australia, then Asia Pacific. And so I'd had a long involvement. I'm a minister. I'm a trained minister, and I had been an engineer or aeronautical worker in the Air Force. Done a bunch of other jobs. But when it was ASP, Richard Grellman, the CEO at the time, just sort of saw this need for care, a well-being sort of care role for the surfers on tour and for the staff, because I work with both. And so that opportunity arose. We trialled it with Brad Whitaker from Cronulla, went over and trialled it for a year. And then I came on, I think my first WSL event or ASP event was 2010 with Jason in Makaha. And before that, Winnie, Mark Winden had asked me to come along to the Australian titles and do chaplaincy there. So I've been doing it voluntarily for a long time, and then it sort of became an official role over time. It's just something that I think I had been in that posture and that position within the culture, and then it was slowly recognised. So I'd done a few funerals, I'd married a few people and helped a few people out in hard circumstances. So that role just sort of opened up more and more.
What do you reckon the biggest misconception is? Because as you mentioned, I didn't realise it was so long until you say it out loud. It's scary, but
it's because I'm really old, Jason.
That was my first world longboard title I was ever present at. Was that one in Makaha you're saying? So what's that? 2010. So you're going back a while now. But you've obviously been across for the whalebone and stuff as well. So I've been at the Australian Longboard Surfing Open, Sean's event. I've seen you at over a number of years. So I know you better than most. So I know a bit more of the real you. But what do you reckon the biggest misconception is about being chaplain for the World Longboard Tour?
I think the biggest misconception is probably to do with the name, chaplain. People automatically think of some overly religious dude with a collar who's going to Bible thump people. But in many ways, it's almost a Red Cross kind of role or Salvation Army. I'm there to help. I've studied all comparative world religions. I don't discriminate because of gender, sexuality, religion or race. All those things are just stupid. I'm a neutral person at the events. So I think a lot of the biggest misconception is that it's this overtly religious role. And it isn't,
It's self-funded pretty much, isn't it? I think another thing I've heard people sort of going, oh, it must be nice to be on the gravy train, you know, rolling around the world, but that's not the case either, is it?
No, it's completely self-funded. So in the last 10 years, I'm 140K into the World Longboard Tour. So I pay the last events overseas, that was a $30,000 a year. You know, so I pay my own way, my accommodation. I'm an invited guest by WSL, but in no way am I paid by WSL. And I like that. I wouldn't mind if people give donations. That's another thing. That doesn't happen often, but it keeps me independent of WSL. So I don't represent the tour and I don't represent the surfers. I'm this independent voice in the middle of all that, which is a great thing. They don't have anyone like that. A lot of people have. I talk about it in two ways. There's a vested interest. So let's say Kira's mum or a surfer's mum, they've got a vested interest. They want their daughter to win. So their interest in that surfer is vested. And then you've got invested interests. So Kira's sponsors have given her money or product to represent them well. They have an investment in that surfer. And so mostly at contests, you've got vested and invested interests and no clear independent voice, which is what mine is. So often I'll get surfers just coming for a clear check because all their mates will be going, oh, the judges robbed you, you know, and they want to know exactly what happened, not what their mates say happened. And also the funny thing about surfing, whether it's longboarding or shortboarding, is the friends that you travel with are also your co-competitors. So who do you confide in? Who do you tell you've got an injury or a worry? Or because some people will use that to their advantage, you know. So I'm this independent person. And the other thing that happens with events, or the misconception, is that I'm only there for the surfers at events. So I contact a lot of people outside of events. I follow them on Facebook and message them to find out what's going on in their lives. And if I see something that's happened, you know, I've seen well-known surfers whose partner has passed away or has suffered a tragedy or an injury. Well, I'm contacting them and I'm offering help. I'm connecting them with services if I know of any in the area they live in, things like that. So it's a kind of all year round, not event by event role. And that would be the other misconception, that I'm just rocking up at events, you know, getting food, traveled around the world. None of that happens.
What I like seeing as well is you've got an amazing list of accolades from people within the tour, you know, and I've seen at various events, you know, there's questionnaires to fill in and things to make sure that, I guess it's you checking yourself as well, making sure you're on the right track. And you've got surfers of all calibers. Taylor Jensen singing your praises very highly about the power of that neutral voice for them to talk to. But the wonderful thing about it is, because I don't want to get bogged down in too much of the ins and outs of the role itself specifically, let's talk more about some of the beautiful things that it creates, because it gives you a fairly unique insight into what's going on behind the scenes for these surfers. For some of the reasons you mentioned, I mean, there's that trust. They're not giving away any secrets to a competitor that might come back against them. They don't have to worry. I've used your shoulder to cry on vent too after a unhappy result, knowing that you're not going to go running off to the next bloke and going, oh, geez, Weeksy reckons that, you know what I mean? So, and obviously that means that you don't just save your services for the good, virtuous, lovely people, because you still be mates with people, scallywags like me. But let's get started with showing a few of your photos that capture some of those moments that people maybe don't think about what's going on at a surfing competition. So we'll start off with, you've had a pretty good relationship over the years with what turned out to be the world's youngest ever world champion.
Yep. Yeah, Rachel Tilley, fantastic young ambassador for surfing, the youngest world champion in any discipline of surfing. And I think her win was not unexpected. I guess, you know, you could see from her talent that she was definitely going to win a world title, but it crept up on her at this event. It was like, oh, I won that heat. Oh, I won that other heat. Oh, I won the semi heat. Oh, look, I'm in the final. Oh, wow, I'm the world champion. She was not the underdog, but the unexpected one. And so all this pressure wasn't sitting on her shoulders. And so she rose to the occasion really easily. But if we go to another photo, the next one, I think it is Weeksy, is a funny moment. Okay, so here's Rachel. We're in Royuan Bay, Hainan Island, China. And she's sitting with the World Cup that she has just won and Skyping her mum back in California, because this is one of the first events that Rachel had travelled to alone. And so she's there, you know, in amongst all of her friends, but she wants to share with mum and dad back home what's happened. And so here she is on the FaceTime back to mum in California. You know, in amongst all this other hype that's going on, the men's event is still running. She's sitting in amongst dirty board bags with the cup, saying, "Mum, I've won the world title."
What a fantastic moment.
It is. And one of my favourite things to ask is, what are you going to do with the cup when you take it home? So Rachel filled it with M&Ms, and it sat in the middle of their dining table, and they all ate M&Ms out of it for months.
Classic. And as an example of some of her surfing, a fantastic surfer, obviously in her own right, in all sorts of conditions, but what a fantastic ambassador as a human being as well.
And she's done so much for women's longboarding behind the scenes. Okay, I know from meetings I've had with her and actually with her mum, some of her forward planning, that she has actively promoted women's longboarding, not just promoted herself. And she was responsible for us being able to offer equal prize money down at the Australian Open long before any other WSL event was doing it. You know, we upped the ante to what the guys were getting, because she said, "Hey, look, we are so marketable. We might not, you know, be quite as good in the water, but we are worth just as much as the guys for surfing." And she's dead set correct.
I remember I was actually there in the room with that, and I wasn't part of the conversation, but I heard the passion as she put forth her case, and she wasn't to be denied. But I love the fact that she's she's a bit like Kira. You know, she studies hard, she trains hard, she's always doing good things and helping out the community and all the rest of the stuff. But she's living, isn't she living your way now, Kira? Or she's?
I think she's Sean's way, isn't she?
Yeah, she's down on the Gold. Yeah. She's well, she was going to Bond Uni, but I now believe she's picked up a job with WSL.
Yeah, she's working with WSL, and she's also doing some stuff with Sideways Surf, I think. But yeah, Rachel studied at Bond, did a whole event running, marketing degree. She's an incredibly bright, talented young lady, and has been a fantastic, and still is, not has been, but is a fantastic ambassador for female longboarding, and also a great surfers rep for the women's side of the tour. She's a great young person.
Yeah, Andrew, obviously you said it yourself, you sort of experienced the highs and the lows in the process of, you know, so you people will come and cry on your shoulder as well as sharing those exciting times. But I've got another couple of photos here, which, so I'll just pop it into full screen because I think that'll help everyone to see it. But
yeah.
I was going to ask a question, Andy, about the whole chaplaincy thing. Obviously, because you see so many people, and in a way that, you know, they're almost dumping not their problems, but coming to you for advice. Is there a way of you sort of, I don't know, like offloading it or relaxing and going, okay, like not trying to take it on board and have like a super invested interest in it and like be kind of worrying about it? Do you have a way of sort of being like, okay, just calming yourself and moving forward from that? Or
I do. I'm able to compartmentalize things pretty well, but I also go and seek my own counselling. So after events and after helping other people with their burdens, I go and see a counsellor myself, because it's a great way of talking through those things.
For sure.
I think too, I wouldn't say that I offer advice. I usually point people in the direction of ways that they can find help. So I'm happy to take people to counsellors. I'm happy to take them to marriage counsellors, point them in the direction of NA and AA and other organisations that can help. But often I'm the person, because it's a really hard thing to go to a professional person and ask straight up for help. And that's why at an event, if there's a really big critical incident, it might be good to have psychologists around. But fronting up to one and going, oh, look, I'm really dealing with this, without having a relationship with them is quite hard. So the relationship that I have with the surfers helps them open up, unpack their problems or their good and bad things that we all have. And it helps me to help them to navigate where to go from there.
Sure. And obviously that's something like you have to work hard to get the respect of the surfers too, and be around that environment to get them to, really trust you as well, obviously.
Yeah. And I try to be, I have an attitude of service. I'm at the event as an invited guest. I'm there to serve, not to serve myself. I'm not there to get food. I'm not there to get T-shirts. I'm not there to get, a lot of people are at the events to try and get.
I am. I go for the T-shirts.
The T-shirt.
I'm happy to have them if they're given to me, but I don't go for that. In many ways, I know you guys love contests, but watching surfers over and over, I'd actually rather be in the ocean surfing. But I happily stand on the beach and watch the people I serve surf, because it's the people I love. I love the people of the tour. Okay. And the other thing I think about, particularly, it's not just surf athletes, but athletes in general, is that I've got 2 adult children. My kids are 30 and almost 30 and almost 33. And when I was bringing them up, I tell them they're loved because of who they are, not what they do. But athletes are appreciated because of what they do. If you can kick a football well, you get on the team. If you can ride a surfboard well enough to win, then you get sponsorship. And so it's because of what you do that the sponsors add value to you, that the competition adds value to you. But what happens when you can no longer do what you do? When you're injured, or your ability is overtaken by someone else, or life falls apart around you and you can't do those things. So where do those people go when they can no longer do what they do? Because as soon as you're not performing, your sponsors will drop you. As soon as you're not winning, your mates aren't around as much. And, it just sort of changes things. Whereas I don't really have a vested interest in who wins or loses. I'm interested in the person, not the result.
The Switzerland.
Yeah. I was just wondering, with the relationships you've built up with all these surfers, when you do get out there free surfing, do they give you more waves, or do you still have to fight for your fair share?
No, when I do go surfing, and usually I'll have a little surf at an event in the warm-up time beforehand, I don't hassle for waves, but I don't have to push too hard to get them. So they're very kind to me, Sean, which is really nice. But I haven't surfed in 3 years because of my heart. I had quite a bad heart attack. So at the moment, swimming and body surfing is my way of riding waves.
It sounds like there's better rules for chaplains than there are for commentators. I get given nothing if I go for a surf at a comp.
Andy, you also have, obviously I've done photo shoots with you and seen your amazing photos. Where did that come from, your inspiration in photography and everything? When did that begin also?
I'd always done art and had studied part of it. I draw quite a lot, and I just gravitated towards photography, I think probably because I'm a little bit lazy and it's instantaneous. But I have an artistic eye towards photography. I also thought that at the events, what I noticed was, because a lot of the people I'm working with are doing press releases and things like that. Usually there's only 5 or 6 people who get mentioned in the press releases, and a lot of the surfers don't seem to get any photo from the event. And so I just thought it was another way that I could serve people at events. And also I have a lot of creative energy. I write a lot, I draw a lot, I shoot photos a lot. So it was a great way for me to utilise that creative energy at events that I was in. Yeah. But when I do a photo shoot with you or with Clinton or so, oh, there we go, there's Tony on the camel. But when I do a photo shoot, I'm thinking about the artistic look of it. So Kira will know this. I make her get up at ridiculous hours of the morning because I want to capture the light. So a lot of people will go to the beach, stand at the break and just capture what's going on in front of them. The way I work with shooting surfers, because I don't go up to nursery and shoot photos. I don't tend to just turn up at the break and shoot photos. I'm thinking about what I want to create and an image I want to create. And so Kira and I have shot together quite a few times. How do we partner? Kira brings the art form and I capture it. And so we're thinking about light, we're thinking about the maneuvers that she might do and things like that, so that it comes off in the sort of art that I like to produce. So it's a little different than your normal, just straight out, front full frame surf shots. I like to capture things differently. And I'm always thinking about light and colour. And
some of the wave shots that you've shot also are really beautiful. That Instagram that you have, the Noosa and Mooloolaba moments, they're really good. I would definitely recommend checking that out if anyone hasn't already.
Thanks, Kira. And of course, there's also Andrew Carruthers photography. But I love shooting photos of surfers, but it is a process to arrange a shoot. Like I said, I don't, like the points might be breaking, but I don't want to go out there, hassle with other photographers and just shoot people surfing at me. I'd rather do a partnership, a dance, I would ring up Kira, we would go and shoot, and she knows that I'm shooting her and I know that it's just her that I'm concentrating on. So we do a sort of a dance together to get the image. And even at events, I sort of get around and try and look for different images. Here you go, here's my lullaby.
I was wondering if those photos were coming up. I kept scrolling through. I'm sitting there gawking at them. I was where's this one here, Andy?
That is the back of Jinsun Harbour. So usually you surf over the other side of that big break wall is where the contest is. But when it's really big, inside the harbour breaks, and that's Taka Inoue from Miyazaki, Japan, who is surfing inside the harbour there.
Wow.
Okay.
I really want to go on a surf trip to China one day. I want to surf that river wave, the tidal bore one. But
yep.
This is the fruits of your labour, mate. You get up early in the morning to get that beautiful light.
I get up about 40 minutes before sunrise, and I'll swim out before the sun's cracked the horizon, and then I can work with the light to capture something beautiful. I think unbroken waves are nice. The good thing about unbroken waves is they don't ask whether I got their last manoeuvre or whether I made them look fat or not.
You missed the best bit.
And so, but I have a love and a passion for the ocean. I've lived near it almost all my life, and I love capturing these quiet little moments. While most people are waking up and heading to the beach, I'm packing my camera up and driving home from the beach. Oh, here we go.
Right.
So do you want to talk about this?
This brings us to an interesting question here, Mr. Carruthers. I'll stop the share on that. But obviously, we've been introduced as the Panda, and for many years I've known you. I've heard that name thrown around, but now for once, can we get to the bottom of this this story here? Where did that nickname come from?
I don't know what you're talking about, Jason. Who is the Panda? I've got no idea.
Oh, look at the special effect. Oh, it's you. Oh.
Yeah, no, this is quite a funny story. So we're in Hainan Island, China. And Hainan's it's the southernmost prefecture of China. You're only 100 kilometers from the Vietnam border. So it can be both hot and cold. If the wind is blowing from the northwest out of Mongolia, and that's really cold there. But when it's not blowing that way, it might be coming in from Vietnam and other places. It's quite hot. So this day it's really hot, and I've taken my shirt off to walk down the beach, stand under some palm trees and shoot photos back towards the point. So I'm standing on the beach with my shirt off, and I'm quite a hairy critter. And anyway, standing on the beach, 600mm lens, shooting photos, and all of a sudden all these Chinese women are standing next to me with their phones like this, getting selfies with me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And then there's a whole little group of them, and Nick Jones is standing just next to me. And one of these women reaches out and touches my shoulder and goes, "Oh, Panda." Because they've never seen anyone hairy like me, you know. Asian people are quite hairless in their body. And so she's just freaking out. Never seen anything like this panda in the wild, you know. And so, of course, Nick Jones is straight onto it. "Oh, Panda, Panda. It's my nickname forever. They've put that Panda song on. And so I can't escape it. I've gone with it and completely embraced it. It is who I am. I am a hairy man. But I have my own hashtag. I am the Aqua Panda. So if you follow the hashtag the Aqua Panda, you'll see wave photos from the Aqua Panda swimming around in the ocean. But it's not a bad nickname. There could be worse, and I'm quite happy with it, Weeksy.
Well, that puts a lot of conjecture to rest for us, mate. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Moving along with the photo collection. Now, I'll just pop back up these because this is from a warmer time than the one you've just related. But again, around that time when this is your first official event, was at Makaha, and certainly it was warm on the land, and it got pretty hot out there in the water.
It did. This shot is of Phil Rajman taking on outside Makaha, and in between the trials. So the trials was held the day before this, and then this was the day the contest was supposed to start. And the day the contest was supposed to start, the swell came up. It was just macking, and so they called it off. And everyone was out there. Here's Phil charging one, and Michael Atronic, I think, was on commentary or part of the event. He was out there as well, and it was full on. And so I took some photos in the morning, and then I drove over to the North Shore to go to Waimea and have a look. But because Dwayne DeSoto won that event. But I've driven over there, and my good friend Eric Awakawa lives over at Waimea. And so I've dropped in to see Eric, and I've knocked on his door. And just after I've knocked on his door, the phone rings, and Gordon Merchant is on the phone telling Eric that Andy Irons has died. And so this day, the day that Makaha World Longboard Titles was supposed to start, was the day Andy Irons died. And so we heard it firsthand. Eric, of course, was Andy's shaper. And so we went down to Eric's factory, and that day people were coming to the factory. They were, crying, bewildered about what had happened to Andy. At that time, the WSL Shortboard Tour had a chaplain, Abe, who's a good friend of mine. I was messaging Abe, seeing how he was, what was going on in Puerto Rico, how are they going to handle it, and I talked him through and helped him with organising a paddle out for Andy in Puerto Rico and other things like that. And then when we went back to the event, Weeksy would remember that next morning, the morning of the event starting, we had a short memorial for Andy, and Hawaiians do this kind of stuff so well. They remember their champions, and they celebrate life and celebrate death as well. And so at the event starting, we had this memorial for Andy Irons, and all that week people were talking about the importance of life and death and what we leave behind. And of course, this was a breakthrough win for Dwayne DeSoto at his home break at Makaha, and it was the last ever Oxbow World Longboard title to be held. So there were a lot of significant things that happened at that event in Makaha. And Makaha's a perfect place to have a longboard event, by the way. It's an amazing one. But it was, Weeksy, you'd remember it. What an event that was.
Oh, incredible. I think it was the Australian surfers surfed really, really well, but the only person to make it through the first round was Bo Young. And I remember seeing a couple of heats where I was like, oh, it's pretty tricky to win a competition if you're not Hawaiian. Got to be honest, there was a few. I was sitting with, what's his name? Uemura. Is it Jason Uemura, the young fella?
Kiko Uemura?
I was sitting with the dad anyway, and it was Jason Uemura. Anyway, he had a heat with Harley, and I think he needed 8.3 or something to get over Harley in the dying seconds of the heat. And we'd been sharing a beer out of his cooler, as they do in Makaha. And it was China Uemura I was sitting with. It was his son who was in the heat. I think Jason it might be. Anyway, so he caught a wave and he surfed it really well, but it was kind of, there was no way. Oh, yeah, well, sorry, it was kind of a 3/4 of a wave, not an 85% sort of a wave. And his dad, who was sitting shoulder to shoulder, kind of went, oh, well, he tried, kind of thing. And then the both came in, and then on the announcer on the beach was like, oh, he got an 8.35, and the whole crowd was, ah! And his own dad was looking at me like, but I think that's a traditional thing. And I think the wonderful thing about that event was seeing someone with such a beautiful connection with the ocean, who does so much for the youth in Hawaii through Nakamakai. Watching Dwayne DeSoto charge through the rounds and win that event, I think at the end of the day, it was a fitting end to a fantastic event.
So watching Dwayne win was amazing, and Dwayne is such an ambassador for surfing. I think one of the most fitting things, and Dwayne has done a lot of stuff, including the Kontiki boat tour and all sorts of stuff. But I think one of the things that I thought, wow, that just fits Dwayne so well, was when he came to Australia and re-emulated the Duke's rides. To have him as the traditional Hawaiian surfer who showcased the Duke re-riding those waves back at freshwater. It was just, put a lump in my throat, seeing this magnificent Hawaiian surfer representing his Hawaiian culture and surfing culture both at the same time. And a very fitting way for him to close out, as an Oxbow sponsor, the last Oxbow contest.
Yeah, and really like touching scenes as well, watching the reaction from the community to the news as it filtered through of Andy's passing as well. Like you say, a very significant time. And obviously you had one of the Ayala, one of the kahunas from Kauai, doing a prayer on the beach and singing a song. But obviously the gathering of the uncles on the beach there as well, and that connection with the ocean. And then, like you say, to watch the conditions change at Makaha and just turn into this amazing day, it was very special all round. Have you got a favourite competition that you've been to, or that you've been involved with, the best surf, the best absolute contest, or is there no such thing? Is it like children? You love them all for different reasons?
It's hard to have. A lot of people will ask, what's my favourite place in the world? And that's a hard one to answer as well. But I think probably the best and hardest contest that we had, I think, was the one we had in Tapira in Papua New Guinea. It was multiple flights to get there. And then once you land in Madang, they put you into four-wheel drive coaster kind of bus things that are covered in weld mesh, so people can't break in through the windows, and you drive 3 hours into the bush and you turn up at this tiny little village with a Nias-like wave breaking. And so it was both adventurous and amazing. The waves were amazing, but hard at the same time. All right, here we go. So this is that wave, Tupira, and this particular turn. So Taylor Jensen had just done a long hang five at speed through a really hollow critical section, and then he banked off the bottom and did this carved down turn. I've never seen a longboard fit into the tight arc of a wave without losing speed like that. He gained speed out of this turn and then just flicked out, and it was a 9-point turn. It was an amazing thing. Everyone on the point sort of stopped and looked and went, what the heck did we just see? It was just an absolute throwdown turn, It was like, I've arrived, check this out, this is the place and the way to ride it. And it was, in some ways, this event was controversial because I don't know that it's a great wave. I don't know that some people would say it's the best wave for longboarding.
Really, I thought it was I watched the event as much as I could while it was on live, and I thought it was amazing. I want to go.
Oh, it's an amazing wave, no doubt. I definitely go. It's a Nias style wave. But when it comes to variety, so for example, Ben Skinner got 10 barrels in one heat and didn't win the heat because he just got barrel after barrel after barrel. There was no variety in his surfing, there was no nose ride opportunity. And so to showcase the full range of longboard manoeuvres was quite difficult there. There's Piccolo combining nose riding and barreling at the same time, as only Piccolo can. those things floating in the water, you'll see down below Piccolo is a coconut, and then there's another bit of timber floating up there. For the first 2 days, we had monsoonal type rain. And so there was all this stuff washing out into the lineup, and then it just cleaned up and the waves pumped. I swam out there and shot from the water. I haven't got it. I might have one of those water shots that I sent you, Weeksy, but I swam out and shot in the water. And oh my goodness, I've never been so surprised and scared at the same time. So I'm swimming around. It's quite clear, as you can see there. It's about 15 feet deep. And I can see, there's always little blacktip reef sharks and little things swimming around. That's okay. But then all of a sudden, so I'm, you swim and you're sort of just neck deep in the water. I'm treading water. I got the big 200 mil water housing lens. And then all of a sudden I'm lifted right up out of the water to my waist. And then something dropped me. And I've looked around, I can't see anything. And there's only 2 things that are in the water in Papua New Guinea. One is saltwater crocs and the other one is big dugongs. And so I'm going to believe it was a big dugong that wanted to play with the panda. I don't want to think about the other possibility. But I couldn't see anything. And people said they saw a shape, but no one could identify what it was. But yes, I was scared brainless after that. I stayed out there shooting, and I think one of the other highlights I saw of that event is, Weeksy, you're a goofy footer, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. How hard is it to ride backhand in the barrel on a longboard?
When it looks like that, when it's a really high pinch barrel like that, it's really quite difficult. You have to grab rail, which doesn't look attractive on a longboard. So, but I reckon it'd be a bit like the barrel at the wave pool. It'd be really good fun. I'd love to surf that. Actually, Mona, were you there for that comp? I could see you getting slotted in there.
Oh, I wish. The waves look unreal. I was probably shortboarding then.
I saw some amazing. I remember switching on as the first and just seeing someone get barreled, and I'm like, what have I been missing? I haven't been watching this thing. But I can certainly relate to having all the flotsam and jetsam floating around in the water. It reminds me of Samoa after the rains, and literally you're surfing along coral, but you're not worried about the coral. You're worried about the piece of palm tree coming out of the lip at your head. But makes head dips a lot more challenging.
It does. And Jared Neal, I was in the water during his heat. I don't think I know. This is the best backhand barrel I've ever seen. So Jared's taken off, grabbed the rail, and is behind the foam ball from the get-go. Comes out, it just opens up a little bit, and I could see him. I've got a photo of him just disappearing again to be behind the foam ball and then pop out in glory way down the inside. It was just the most ridiculous backhand barrel I've ever seen. And it was breathtaking watching that surfing there. But I know that for nose riding, particularly, until it got a bit smaller, there was some struggle. But we were due to have 5 events in Papua New Guinea, and the prime ministership and politics changed. And so the Tapira event was the only one that we ended up having. But what an adventurous event it was.
Well, sometimes it's depending on the combination of events, it can actually, as far as how many events there are on the world tour, if there is one for that particular year, it can have some fairly dramatic consequences as far as how things finish up for the year. So I'm leading into this photo here where all of a sudden the highs and the lows are being experienced at the same moment. Talk us through what's going on here.
This is the same year. So this year, which I think is 2017, we had one event in Papua New Guinea, and the final event was at Jinsun Harbour in Taiwan. And so this is Edouard Del Perro, and Edouard had finished 1st in Taiwan and 5th in Papua New Guinea. Taylor Jensen had finished 1st in Papua New Guinea and had finished 5th in Taiwan. And so we came at the end of the event with a tied situation. And so this photo is Edouard has just won the event, and he's just gone through the celebration of winning a WSL event, and then realizing that he has 20 minutes to regain his energy and thoughts to go out and have a surf off against Taylor Jensen. And this is you can see Edouard in this photo is just gassed. He's trying to get his head together, and I can't imagine what was going on for him. I could feel this enormous exchange of energy, because it felt like Taylor had lost the world title, and now, like a deep barrel, this little doggy door had opened up, you know, and that he had an opening to win the world title again. And for Edouard, he had won the event, which any other year had probably won him the title, but now he's got to have a surf off. And so Taylor Jensen's energy is rising because he's got hope and expectation. And for Edouard has just expelled all of his energy to win the event, and now he's got to regain energy and focus to go again. And to his credit, Edouard is an amazingly skilled surfer, and he surfs so well, and it was a close final, but he was done. Taylor won the world title that year. And so it's these little moments, you know, you'll get a press release that Taylor Jensen beat Edouard Del Perro in a surf-off. The first, I think, or the second surf-off ever in WSL history. But you won't get those little stories that go into those photos. And in many ways, I felt like I'm a custodian of these stories. I have all these photos and stories. I'm considering putting them together. If there's enough interest in them, we'll see. But
I definitely read that book.
There's definitely all these little bits behind the scenes, you know, that we don't know goes on.
Yeah, I love sorry, mate. I love an underdog story, and obviously Taylor gets a lot of mentions and things. But here's a lesser known name, mate.
Rodrigo Speier, and this is, I don't have favourites, but I would say Rodrigo, and obviously Justin Quintal won the world title. This is the last one that we had in Taiwan in 2019. Rodrigo is well up there as one of the best goofy footers in the world. And Rodrigo in Taiwan, and it got so big in Taiwan this year that we had to move locations to a secret left-hand point like up the beach. And it was pumping, hey, Kara, it was firing like mad.
I just wanted to go free surf there every day.
So it's such a good wave. It's a bit like Uluwatu racetrack, far more makeable. But Rodrigo had a breakthrough win at this event. And to see this man who has toiled so long at his craft, has adapted to all the changes in judging criteria and expectations, to see Rodrigo win, everybody celebrated with him.
And do you reckon he was happy? I think any time you've got this big fella here next to you and he's further down the order than you are, but look at that face, mate.
And Rodrigo is just the loveliest guy. He doesn't speak much English, but he was so stoked to take the win.
Fantastic.
And like all Brazilians do, every Brazilian at the beach that day cheered him up the beach, celebrated with him, and I think the party went long into the night.
I don't mind celebrating a win, huh? But, so some fantastic stories. I just want to share quickly, because I went on and had a little look around, and I've copied and pasted a couple of quotes for some various people, but that because Taylor's been featured there a couple of times. And one of the little thank yous that Taylor left for you said, just wanted to write in support of Andrew's work. I see great value in what Andy does, both behind the lens in providing the surfers with photographs for social media, and with his words of comfort for surfers going through difficult times on tour away from family and friends. Andy's long been a great asset for our WSL Longboard Tour, and I hope he will continue to be for the years to come. Best wishes, Taylor Jensen, 3 times world longboard champion. So you don't get much higher praise than that, mate. And how do you gain from the experience? Because everything's, everything's about positive mutual transactions. Everyone gains the love and support from you. What do you get back? I don't even want to guess.
Yeah, I don't. I get satisfaction in what I do. I get a sense of community with the surfers. I've got a sense of value and purpose and all of those things. As I said, I don't look for sponsorship or accolades or anything like that. I gathered those testimonials because I'm an invited guest, and WSL is often asking, do you still want this guy as an invited guest. So my position on tour is always questioned. Often I'll turn up at an event and I've got to hassle for a pass and, you know, let them know who I am. I'm not on staff. I don't get a staff pass or anything like that. And so I'm constantly validating in some degree what I do. But what I get back is good friends like Kira, good friends like Taylor. I share their lives, and I'm happy to do that. You know, to be part of a tribe and have a place within the tribe is all we can ever ask for, I think.
Answer. Because for me, it's the T-shirts, as I mentioned before. So if it's not the T-shirts, what are you getting? There's got to be something. But
I was going to say, Andy, I know one that when I was in the Philippines with you and we rocked up at the airport and I was like, do I need a visa or where's my lift? And I didn't have reception or anything. And you were there and you were like, do you want me to wait with you? And I was like, yes, please. I didn't know where I was. I was so happy that you were there.
There's been some funny stories like that as well. I've helped people with access boards and, you know, lifts, and I think the funniest one of those was funny and scary at the same time, was Papua New Guinea again. After the event, a lot of people were able to change their flights to get out of there earlier. But I've arrived in Port Moresby and I think there was 6 or 7 people, and if there were 6, 5 of them were under the age of 17, who were going to stay the night overnight in Port Moresby, one of the most dangerous cities in our region.
Don't do that.
And so, so I changed my flight and stayed with them, made sure they had an adult. We were taken to a motel in town, and it's pretty confronting when you go through razor wire into the motel, and at the door of your room, let alone the door of the motel, is a guard with a rifle. And so, you know, it's quite eye-opening for these young people. And I partner with the WSL. I'm an invited guest, but when the event finishes, the WSL's looking after the surfers finishes. Whereas, as I said before, mine doesn't. So all the staff and a lot of the surfers who had the money just changed their flights and nicked off and left these young people behind. And it was easy for me to change my flight, stay behind and make sure they were okay, you know. And I've got some pretty funny photos of, you know, a few young surfers standing next to a dude with a rifle, you know, looking pretty worried, which I won't share here. But those sorts of things, Kira, are the little things that I think go by the wayside, but I know they're not unnoticed by the surfers, and they're not unnoticed by me.
Yeah, definitely.
Based on everything I've seen and heard involved around the competitions and people just talking about you in general, Andy, is we need to have you around. So you mentioned donations and things, and you don't get that many. I think it's probably just because people don't know how. So what's the best way for people to be able to support you? I mean, is it going on the Instagram? Is it the Panda? Is it Andrew Carruthers photography? Or can we put our name down to get this coffee table book? Because if you put all those stories and photos together and some of those anecdotes and some responses from those surfers whose lives you've positively affected, you'll have me throwing my money down. But
yeah. I'm probably I think I'll produce that book as an ebook first to gauge interest, make it really cheap and available with some stories. And if there's enough interest, then I'll produce a hard paperback or hardback version, because, you know, it's quite an expensive printing process. But people can donate or just give, you know.
You make the people pay before you print it, Andrew. That's the trick.
Yeah, that is. That is the trick. And I think in many ways, I value what I do, but often it's hard to value yourself. And how do I put a value on myself is a really big question. And I've
especially in that situation where you're doing something you love like that. So, yeah. Same, I've got hundreds of photos over the years, and I've never charged anyone anything for it. They've been in magazines, newspapers, all the rest of it. I've never charge money for a photo, although I value the art of photography, and I'll quite happily pay a photographer if they're going to come and sit on the beach and watch me through their lens or get those amazing shots. I'd happily do one of your one-on-one things if I can look sexy like Nick Jones there, mate. In the
no, mate, it's it's a camera, not a magic wand, Weeksy, but I'll try.
I'd have to do a lot of manscaping,
But
So what's
I mean,
next
people
then?
can just contact me, and I'm happy to share bank account details and things like that. But at the moment, there's no events. We haven't heard anything what the rest of this year is going to look like. The first event for WSL is supposed to be in New York in October, but I have doubts about that. And I know personally, I don't really want to go to America at this time with COVID. So we'll just see what happens and watch this space about where WSL will land on the other side. Of course, the WSL Shortboard Tour kicks off at Easter, and Weeksy, they're going to be storming Roto.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, actually, I was in Roto on Saturday. I went over there. It was an easterly wind, and I set foot on the island for grand total about 3 minutes because I was driving a boat for a team of 6 swimmers who are competing in the port to pub swim from Fremantle Harbour or Leighton Beach at Fremantle across the 19 point whatever kilometres to Rottnest Island. I was driving the boat, but it was an amazing day, and it would have been some incredible surf, and it'd be really interesting to see how the world's best surfers take on Strickland Bay. It's actually not the best break at Rottnest Island.
I accidentally rode that on my log the first time I rode it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're a nut job, Mona. Did you go left or
I
right?
was like, oh, it looks small from the boat. I'll just take my log out there next minute.
There's that. It's got that real deep color, that deep ocean watercolor as well, that real dark blue out there. I lived at Roto for 8 months, 9 months. I lived at Rottnest, and I've surfed Stricklands in the dark when there's a full moon, and there's no way you'd get me doing that nowadays. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the world tour hit there. And it sounds like they've gone to great lengths to make sure that they're going to minimise any negative impact on the environment. And Surfing WA does a spectacular job of leaving their event sites in a better condition than when they arrive. So I think it's going to be a great event, and probably a good thing for WA. Probably not so good for the Quackers. They're going to get overexposed. Nathan, when are we going to get you over here? We got to get Nathan. I want to get Nathan Riverland over here, so see how he reacts to warm water. But you're getting a good training now on the Goldie, mate. Hey, Andrew, I think this is probably the first episode we haven't mentioned the Tullamarine Wave Pool and spoken about our Oz Longboarding Invitational. So would you come along and chaplain us that in the pool when Nathan organises it?
I'd love to. And I think the wave pools are a fantastic technology, and I love the way that Surfing Vic is running contests in them. The frequency of the waves at the wave pool, the way the bottom can be changed, the look of it. I've watched Ben Considine surf it on video, and he's ripping. I've seen Ben Skinner in the wave in Bristol ripping as well. And I think it'll be fantastic for a longboard event. And just that arena feeling that you get at a pool that can't happen at the beach, the proximity to the action, the fact that there's food and drink right there, I think it'll be a unique thing. That'll be amazing. I'd love to be involved, Weeksy.
From a media point of view alone, I mean, some people don't know. In fact, I was just telling Nath before the start of the show that the movie Flux, which obviously started a real buzz about, traditional using traditional boards throughout New Zealand and the journey throughout the countryside. I'm actually going to go back and watch it again because I only just found out myself that you were the producer, director, editor, the main man that did everything for that one. I could see a really great video production coming out of that Tullamarine contest.
Oh, I think the Tullamarine Wave Pool, and even the fact you could have bands, it could be nighttime finish. It's just got all this stuff that makes it unique. Yeah, I mean, Kira, you surfed it, yeah?
Yeah, on my log again.
Kira gets to do all the cool stuff.
Right, definitely, Kira, next time we're going to the box.
Oh, real?
Yeah, I think we should take to the box.
In WA?
Yeah, I got Jonesy and Jack Entwistle to go out there. I'd love to see Kira charge it.
I tell you what, yep, she's probably one of the few. I don't reckon many of the blokes would be all that keen, but Kira loves the barrel. She just disappeared off of sight there. But I would really love to see an invite type scenario where it's, longboarders getting barreled. It's no good for the world tour. It's not criteria based and that sort of thing, but there's something, Phil Harshman, watching him out at Pipeline, there's just, another level, mind-blowing.
I mean, seeing Phil Roseman on a 9-foot board paddle into 50-foot jaws. I mean, that guy, man, that guy's got kahunas like mangoes. They're huge. But he's an amazing surfer in many ways, both traditionally and big wave performance. But I think, see, the WSL has changed the criteria, but that's their right. They run the events. If you run an event, well, you can have whatever criteria you want. And I don't see why it has to mimic every time what's going on in other events. Have a high performance barrel fest longboard event if you want. If there's interest in it and you've got sponsors, man, go for it. I think it'd be great to see different things happening.
We have the super odd longboarder that will come out in the expert or advanced sessions, which have the barrels, and it's super interesting to watch how they do it because it's pretty tight barrel, and obviously they're working on making different prototypes and stuff, but it's pretty hard to fit into. You don't see many people making it.
No, I mean, Ben Skinner was saying it's pretty close to the wall too, hey, the takeoff with the longboard.
Yeah, well, I guess with a log, because the barrel setting breaks a bit further in than the rest of the waves, like the rest of all the intermediate and advanced turns waves. So you can probably on a longboard start further out, probably where that spot is, paddle in early, and it kind of barrels about halfway down the line. So you've got a bit of time to set up. So most shortboarders or whatever, or if you're a real good performance longboarder, will go and do a turn and then drop down into the barrel.
Yeah.
But I would absolutely love to see the best longboarders in the world take it on, and if we can
make it happen, Nath. You've got the juice, mate.
Longboarding Invitational, it'd be huge.
Mate, well,
when are you going to get your boss on as a guest, and we'll put him on the spot live on Oz Longboarding in front of our thousands of adoring viewers. We'll probably have twice as many viewers now that Andrew's been on. And straight away we'll nail him down. When are we doing it? Because I'm so keen. You've got no idea.
It'd be so cool, and it's so close to the airport too, so easy for everyone to fly in.
Actually, Andrew, do you already own skinny jeans and fluffy moccasins?
I don't have fluffy moccasins. I've got the hipster style beard, but definitely skinny jeans and a nice felt hat so that I look like a hipster. So I can fit right in. I got the retro Ray-Bans.
That's what it's all about, isn't it, Nath? How you look with a latte in your hand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all an act. It's all an act.
Did you see the longboard thing they had at the Kelly's pool? The nighttime images that came out of that were just spectacular.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't see it, no, but I know I've seen a couple of longboarders ride Kelly's wave, and I'm just so jealous.
Okay, they had an event that was day and night, but the nighttime look of it, because of the way the light comes off the wave and the contrast because it's artificially lit, it was just, it'll look pretty on video and on stills. It's an amazing look. So I think an event at the pool would be unique for a lot of different ways.
And we spoke earlier on off air about the fact that you go looking for that perfect look and get there at the right time of the day. I think that'd be one of the unique things. You'd be able to stage a shot with the lighting because it's fixed and because you know where the wave's going to be. You'd be able to really create some amazing images out of that with your mind.
You'll know exactly where to position yourself to get the right footage. Because it's in a fixed position, you can fly drones or have wire cameras. It could be quite amazing what you could do there.
Well, and at Urban Surf in Melbourne, you got the pier right in the middle too, so that's also another good platform to be so close to it. Like they've got the in-house photographers there get some pretty epic shots.
Well, now you can tell the boss you've got the director from the Flux movie involved, Andy C, and another box ticked on our step towards.
No, we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Every week we'll chip away, which I'm determined to get there. Listen, we better wrap it up. We've gone only a couple of minutes over. I could probably spend another 2 or 3 hours at least, Andy, and I guess you've got such a diverse range of involvements in the sport. I wanted to look at the photography stuff as much as anything today because of my own personal interest and I love looking at your images. But where do our viewers go to see more? Is Instagram get the most or?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the easiest place. I post one photo every day. I've got 2 different Instagrams. One is Andrew Carruthers Photography and the other one is Narrow Path Media.
Oh, of course, narrow path. It's always great to chat with you, mate, and thank you so much for your time coming on today. Nath, Sean, you guys got any final questions before we let the Panda loose?
Mate, just stoked to have you on board. Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. Really admire the work you do in and out of the water, and yeah, I'm just hoping that you'll be willing to come back on again for a follow-up show, because you've still got so much more to talk about.
Yeah, it's been great being on here, guys, and I've certainly enjoyed chatting with you. I feel like you probably didn't get half the questions in that you really wanted to ask too. So I'd love to be back. Happy to chat about more. And I think in our world of longboarding, there is so much to talk about. There's heaps of stuff going on. Even in this quieter time during COVID, there's lots of stuff going on. So thanks for having me. I'd love to be back again.
One thing we normally do, Andrew, I've been a bit distracted tonight because I love chatting with you so much, but is to keep track of some of the questions that's coming up on social media. But I'm just turning my phone on for the first time and to have a quick look, and you've got a lot of people involved. Looks like Nathan Riverland. Apparently someone saw you surfing at Snapper today. Josh Constable, another world champ who loves a bit of Panda action. The Panda can hold his own. The bigger and heavier in the conditions will definitely be at the pointy end of the pecking order. So there we go.
There we go. I did, when I lived in Ulladulla, my favourite thing was paddling into big waves on 9-foot longboards. So I've paddled into 18 to 20 feet on a longboard. And I love, I think longboards are well suited to big waves. So it's great to, Josh has seen me get a few pits. So that was really nice. Thanks, Josh.
So Clinton Guest says you're an awesome marriage celebrant also. So we saw those great silhouette photos earlier on. I don't know if Clinton's name actually got a mention, but you and Clinton hook up for some of those artsy shots.
Yeah, and I do have photos of me marrying Clinton as well, which is something I've done, and married a few people along the way, and performed the funerals for a few really good friends as well.
Gary McCormick saying you contacted him with words of support when you were arranging the paddle out for good old Davey Flower a few years ago. Rest in peace, Dave, as well. So again, I think a lot of people don't really understand the fact that you're not just there for those half a dozen weekends a year. LT Hopper wants to know why you haven't got one of your awesome ocean shots in the background. Well, hopefully we've shared a few, and that'll motivate you guys to get online to see the rest of them. LT Hopper's also shared narrowpathmedia.com.au /Flux the movie. So if you want to get on, it's in the link. Chris Leslie Brown, is that friend, someone you might know, Nathan?
Who, sorry?
Chris Leslie Brown.
Oh, yeah. What is
it says, Nathan, have my kids. Oh my God.
He's a peck nut.
Owen Kavanagh's watching and throwing out respect. Gary Mack says, love your work. And so, look, generally what happens is after the show, we get a few questions from your admiring supporters. So are we able to ask you to keep an eye on the questions down below? So if people have any questions for you directly, that you might be able to pop back on the Facebook page and answer them for us?
Yeah, happy to do that.
Fantastic. Now, sorry, Kira, I covered up for it amazingly well that you lost connection and now you're back on your mum's iPhone. But yeah. Any final questions or comments for Andy before we let him go?
I just can't wait to see that coffee table book and hear all your stories, because they're just amazing, and I've really enjoyed listening to you. And I've spent heaps of time with you before, but I enjoy every time listening to what you've got to say and the stories you have to share, and just interacting.
Thanks, Kira. It's really nice.
Awesome. I'm putting us into Brady Bunch view now so everyone can see all of us. So make sure we're not doing anything outrageous with the orifices. But Matty Cook couldn't join us this evening. He's a bit, I sent the message out, Cookie's feeling a bit crooky. So because I'm a dad, I'm allowed to make jokes like that. But he spent all day standing out in the weather on the weekend. I forgot it was a bit rainy on your side of the country. Hopefully everyone's staying safe. I know I've got family in Port Mac, and even Robin Harvey, a guest from our show, has been sharing her flooded out pictures of Crescent. So up and down the coast, my heart goes out to all of you, and hopefully there's enough helping hands and emergency services and things to keep everybody safe. Possessions obviously come and go, but let's hope there's no loved ones have any big issues. You guys are all okay up your northern end of the Queensland side of things, aren't you?
Yeah, we're pretty good up here. I think maybe Gold Coast probably has a bit more rain than us.
Yeah, Gold Coast copped it.
But and any final messages, Andrew, before we let you go for your viewers who'll be tuning in? What's your words of inspiration to leave us with before we sign off?
I think the thing that I have always said to surfers, and I may have said this to Kira over the years as well, is I make a point when someone loses or something goes wrong, that 20 minutes of surfing doesn't define you as a person. Who you are as a person is a much deeper thing than how you perform in the water during a heat, or even some of the mistakes or triumphs that we have in life are just things that happen. Who we are goes all the way to the heart of the person, and it's the heart of the person that I like to connect with. That's the heart of the person that I like to encourage. So to people out there, feed your heart, don't feed the things that you do.
Mana, much love. Hey, and I can announce as well, and this will probably be an interesting one for you as well, Andrew, our guest next week. I use the word legend quite a lot because I know lots of legends, but Billy Gibson joins us next week. So anyone who's been keeping track of the various vintage surfboard collectors pages, some of the restorations he's been doing on some really significant traditional surfboards, as well as the new twist he's putting on some old shapes. But Billy will join us next week and take us inside his legendary cave of dreams and show us some of his board collection and tell us some of the stories that go along with it. So looking forward to that. Sorry, Sean, you look like you're trying to get something in.
I just wanted to congratulate Andrew and Jenny on 33 years of happy marriage. Hopefully it's all happy.
Yeah.
We celebrated that last week, and good on you.
Yeah, congratulations. And Andrew, I've sort of alluded to it a couple of times, but I really wanted to finish off like on behalf of the surfing community, the longboarding community, all those lives that you touch and serve, and for all the great memories that you're storing in your treasure trove, which will be out soon on a coffee table book near you. Thank you so much. And I mean that. And I was one of those people that went, oh God, Chaplain, there we go. I was one of those guys who was preemptively thinking I was going to get Bible bashed. And I can tell you, I've really appreciated your friendship, and I've seen the result of the loving words and kindness you've shown to others over the years. And from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your service, and hopefully it stays around for many years to come.
Thank you very much, guys.
Oh, now I'm tearing up because I want to be as nice as you one day. Anyways, let's smile and wave and say goodbye. That's the end of episode 3. We'll see you next week, same time, Tuesday night, Oz Longboarding with Billy Gibson. Thank you again to the Panda.